So no matter what, whether it's chatbots or anything in digital marketing or anything in business, if you're not continuously adapting and learning, you're always going to let down the end user, in my opinion.
Everybody's at the record, rockin' at the record, with the man rockin' at the record, baby, rockin' at the record, with the man rockin' at the record, with the baby, rolling at the record, rockin' and rollin'.
Hey everybody, this is Kenna.
And this is Andres, and we have Daniel Lynch today with us as our second guest for Through the Funnel podcast from Possess Marketing here in Denver, Colorado. Thank you so much for tuning in and just being with us.
Today's sponsor is Founders All Day IPA.
Not really sponsored, don't quote Kenna, but we're trying to get there. Just
enjoying a couple of drinks here and there. It's phenomenal beer. I can't say enough about it, guys.
It is pretty good. So how would you describe this beer?
It's basically one of those IPAs that if you're day drinking during the summer or you're on the beach, you're trying to find an alternative Corona, trying to find a little bit more of a hoppy taste. All Day IPA is there to quench that thirst and be that IPA of choice for day drinking. Don't recommend it at night though, but during the day it's an all day IPA.
So right now, Daniel, it's 7:02. Do you recommend me open it?
Yes, because you would still qualify in Hawaii.
Okay. So this is the IPA that we're about to try, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty good. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you so much. Kenna, what's today's topic?
So today's topic is chatbots and API, and Daniel actually is one of the people that introduced me to this topic at first. When I first met him, we sat down and he blew my mind. We were talking about like heat maps and connecting different APIs to whatever software.
Not IPAs, APIs.
Yeah,
that's right. There you go.
But yeah, connecting it to different softwares, and then also talking about chatbots. And didn't you? What was it that happened the first day I met you? You like showed me how to do like those phone calls where it's like a robot talking.
Well, that was actually Twilio, yes. So that was a tool. Common if you guys have ever used Uber and you've got a text message, it was actually through a tool called Twilio, and Uber had leveraged their API, which is one of the most dynamic APIs out there for text messaging and doing robocalls, actually.
Yeah.
If I recall, it's you actually received a robocall that day as well, too.
I did, and
Are you talking about those robocalls that I get every single day from like nonsense companies that are just
people
like
trying to scam you for the IRS,
like Viagra, like $10 a pill?
Well, it might have been Cialis, but here's the deal. Yes, that is correct, is that you can program a robot using a couple basic lines of code, even using a cool tool called Zapier and Twilio. For pennies on the dollar, you can literally have people just robocalling numbers nonstop. And if you're doing it at scale like a lot of these operations are, I mean, it's really not that hard whatsoever.
But isn't that annoying for some people who are not interested in those services or those products that you're offering?
That is 100% true. That's why I personally don't do that. But the people who are calling you probably don't care.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't.
Yeah, sometimes it's quantity, and that's something that we see in digital marketing, that quality over quantity. Like people will just send out these mass sales messages, and they're going to get actually the same percentage, land the same percentages as these like quality messages.
Well, here's the deal. At the end of the day, everybody listening to this at some point has done an email blast they weren't proud of. And it's one of those email blasts where they see those those spam rates go up. You're like, you know what? I feel good about this. I'm going to get greedy. And you know what? They don't care about what you're selling. But for a minute, you thought they did. And you sent that message and then you all of a sudden you went to the spam folder. And we've all been there. Medical Bill Gurus, my company, we're definitely in the spam folder. I don't send any emails anymore, but we've all abused MailChimp a little bit here and there.
That's actually funny because it's true. But let me ask you a question. Will you explain a little bit about your background and who you are?
Well, yes. So So my background, originally from Florida, guys. I was a structural engineer by trade education. I realized I was not a fan of the corporate 9-to-5 life and applied my engineering, problem-solving, analytical background to digital marketing. And in doing so, I became really big. I actually do statistical analysis. I've done some literally calculus, being a nerd, looking at maximum and minimum of Google Analytic functions and whatnot. But I basically applied that background to problem solving in that marketing and sales world. Failed on my first business. Was a company that was aimed at tutoring engineers, and eventually started a medical billing company that took off pretty well, and was done basically on a digital marketing perspective and strategy with branding, SEO, social media, etc. Launched it off of Instagram, and eventually found myself opening a digital marketing agency because of the results of that. So I'm here today, basically with the background in doing everything from buying domains, hosting the websites, designing the websites, creating the content for SEO, social media. And then actually not only generating leads, but then actually qualifying them, marketing automation, CRM, chatbots, lead scoring. And then ultimately for some of my clients, I've actually flown out and closed the client for them as well. So try to provide turnkey marketing and sales solutions to different clients now.
Yeah, so Daniel really does do it all. We were even talking about it earlier. I was like, we can get him on here for heat mapping and chatbots and APIs and like literally every single lead scoring. Like we could really have a conversation with you about anything. So we expect you to be coming back for another episode.
Definitely. And you're officially our second guest of the Through the Funnel.
Honored to be here for you.
Through the Funnel podcast. Thank you so much, Daniel.
How does it feel?
Feels buzzed. There's a good buzz in the air. So I've got my Corona and lime. I think Swayze would be happy right now.
Shout out.
Shout out to Swayze.
So Daniel, for the viewers and the people who are listening, what is API? What does API stand for?
Yeah, so a lot of people, what they need to realize is that we're getting ready to transition into the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, and it's already started, and it started with APIs. So an API is an application programming interface. And basically what it allows is to enable different databases of data and software and different functionalities to integrate with one another to actually start creating what's called an API workflow. And so APIs actually enable you to create a life cycle of a customer without even talking to that person, to never even having an experience with them, and then have this crazy detailed journey ending up as a customer. And so as we look at, maybe let's use Amazon as an example. They're the first one to maybe leverage APIs, but it's one of the reasons why we have retargeting pixels that know exactly how to target you on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, right? Going as far now to the modern small business can actually create an API that can maybe call a customer, deliver a message, and replace a job, right? And so as we transition into this next industrial revolution, technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning are all combined together with APIs to deliver new functionalities in ways that we can actually replace quite a few of the common jobs in America.
So that's something that's super interesting that you mentioned, because I've been looking into API for a long time. However, I'm a little bit worried, and I know some people are also worried, especially those workers, those people who are making those calls, the people who are sending those emails, and that could be replaced by a robot, right? So where is the balance, or where's the borderline between API and human labor? So,
yeah, I think that's a phenomenal aspect, because I'm really big on empathy and imagining myself as one of those people. It sucks, right? But here's the deal: is we live in a savage world. The average worker in India, Mexico, in Africa, they would probably laugh at that statement to some extent, right?
Oh, yeah.
And here's the deal: is that if you go look at economic theory, John Smith, the invisible hand, people will always do what's in our best interest. And so at the end of the day, if we have a consumer-based economy and people are consuming and utilizing those services and not really looking at the aspect of that human labor, then at the end of the day, nothing is going to happen to those people. They're going to go jobless, right? That's why certain presidential candidates, such as Andrew Yang, have an interesting perspective of having an actual global income, because at some point we are due to have civil disruption. I mean, if you look at the average American, they don't have this crazy skill set of being able to do all these different, technical jobs or skills. The average job in America is a truck driver and a secretary, right? Both of those jobs can be replaced by artificial intelligence right now. It's just we haven't had the economical mindset to actually make it happen or the oversight, right? But if we had a recession and people were desperate for money, you better believe that those secretaries would go away and be replaced with Google Duplex and Amazon Alexa, and that those truck drivers would be talking about Tesla. So, it's just we haven't had that circumstance yet. But the reality here is that those people will be displaced, and unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it with society. But Andrew Yang brings up an interesting point, and Bill Gates actually brought this up earlier a couple years ago and said that if we wanted to really get ahead of this, that for every job that's replaced by technology, we should charge a tax. And then that tax funds an actual global income for all people because we are people in society. So no one deserves to be homeless, not have food or healthcare.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, though, how are we going to afford that? But Bill Gates has an interesting point here that if we take away 10 jobs, and yes, the business does gain some financial advantage, we should probably tax them some extent of that savings, since they're already getting it anyways, and actually apply that towards some type of global income. But here's the deal between us and New Zealand, right? Is that New Zealand is a we don't really like to talk about, different types of government, right? But if you look at a government that provides a lot for the people, such as New Zealand, all those members of society actually contribute. The issue with Americans, in my opinion, is if you give an American the opportunity to go on Medicare and unemployment and Social Security, they're never going to work again, even if they can.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, that's not the case. Yeah. So it's a fine line, right? Like if we were in New Zealand and we were talking about this global income, they almost already have that to some extent, but it's a lot better because all members of society contribute. But the average American would probably not contribute, So I mean, it's a double-edged sword,
I love how we just walked into that world to politics and everything. But we're gonna get back real quick to chatbots. So what is a chatbot?
So let's talk about why we need a chatbot before we talk about what is a chatbot, right? So if it was Super Bowl Sunday, right? Super Bowl's coming up here in a couple weeks, and you're getting ready to, your favorite team. I'm a Patriots fan. You're getting ready to watch the big game. You're all pumped, right? Everybody hates Tom Brady. He's a douchebag, 100%. But you're getting ready to buy this, TV you've been saving up for, right? Let's say it's a 60-inch plasma Panasonic. It's going to be $3,500, but you have one question. So you pull up the Best Buy. You're flexing. You're feeling good. You've got that credit limit ready to go, however the fuck you're going to pay for it, right? But you're like, I need to ask them one question about maybe the 3D capabilities or how I could watch Netflix on the TV, right? You have one question. You go to Best Buy and you're looking at this TV, you're falling in love, but no one answers your question, right? You walked into the store, you're getting ready to spend a ton of money, a decision that could very well, a lot of guys here, we really live by our TVs, right? So you look at this and you're getting ready you have one question. What if no one comes to answer your question? You can't find anybody. You leave the store, right? You get kind of pissed off because you're like, this is a big purchase. Yeah. This is something where you feel justified that you could have 15 minutes of someone's time.
Exactly.
And Best Buy would 100% promote it, right? But here's the reality is that if no one comes up to you, who's waiting? Amazon. Amazon's going to steal that purchase, right? We're going to go, they say that Best Buy is Amazon's showroom for electronics now because people will go to Best Buy, look at a TV, and then price match it on Amazon. And if Best Buy can't match the price, they buy it on Amazon, right? So here's the deal. That same emotion happens every time someone comes to your website and maybe they don't want to sign up on your form, but they have a question. They don't want you to know who they were. They don't want you to call them. They want to remain anonymous, right? That's why a chatbot's so important. So a chatbot is basically the medium between someone on the front end of the website, an end user, let's say, right, a client, a customer, and then a sales rep or someone of importance who can answer those questions. And so a chatbot, let me qualify that. It doesn't have to actually even be a person. It can even be a bot, right? And we're going to go over that in a minute here. But basically, a chatbot is a resource for a business, an organization anybody that has a website to take those valued website visitors, the ones you're paying for, those pay per click, those organic, those people who show up in your ecosystem, and providing a way for them to get their questions answered and talk to someone, and most of all, create a conversation. Because as humans, when we're getting ready to go sign up for maybe, let's say I have a medical billing company, right? And someone spent their life savings on alternative cancer treatments, they have one question. There's no doubt in my mind that some people are just in a position in life where they don't want to be called. They want to remain anonymous. They want to answer that one question. If you can answer that one question for them correctly, they might give up their identity.
In a timely manner.
Yeah. And Harvard actually did a study. That's a great point, my friend. Harvard did a study that if you can respond within 3 to 5 minutes, you're 90% more likely to close that deal than if you don't. Because if you're one of those people who think you're entitled to someone's time because they signed up on a form, you just haven't done sales long enough, right? You want to catch them in the heat of the moment. You want to catch them when they're showing intent. And like for me personally, I've closed some of my biggest deals at like 2 a.m. on a Saturday night when I should have been talking to people, but I saw that they were like on my chatbot. I'm like, you know what? I could do this like wherever I am. If I'm out catching a buzz, if I'm out being, whatever, if I'm just out walking around at 2 a.m. on Saturday, I have my phone on me. I'm creating conversations. I probably have had messages on my phone since we've been here, right? And the idea is that you're creating conversations, and the benefits of chatbots, going back to APIs right now, is you can actually add conditional logic and actually AI machine learning capabilities to actually answer people's questions in real time. So even instead of having to wait that 3 to 5 minutes and thinking that 3 to 5 minutes is good, you're actually to provide something that's instantaneous based on what they put in there. So if you were to go to my Medical Bill Guru website, it would ask you, are you a patient or provider? That's the first conditional logic tree, okay? And then if you said you were a patient, it would immediately ask you maybe for your email to plant a tracking cookie. And then once you put your email in there, it would automatically email you all the paperwork and the next steps, whether you want it or not. And they would ask you what type of insurance you have, what clinic did you go to. And I've actually had people go through my entire business life cycle for Medical Bill Guru, my medical billing company, without even talking to me and only going through a chatbot and actually sending me everything I need without even talking to them.
So that adds a lot of value to the business model that, different business owners have. How we're now in 2020, and it's crazy to think about that because that happened 4 days ago. Where do you see API and chatbots going in this new decade that we're entering?
So I honestly, I think right now in the current state of things is that we haven't even gotten started yet.
I think so. Yeah.
I think right now there's niches and there's ecosystems that have already adopted the API work styles, particularly in the SaaS world. So like, let's say marketing companies, technology companies, digital marketing agencies, some businesses have seen the value, right? And we've all been like, that's really cool and whatever, right? But when we enter that next recession and that fourth industrial revolution, in industrial revolution, you think of the printing press, you think of, industrialization. That is when APIs are actually going to become mainstream, that the average company will have some API workflow incorporated or they don't exist. And so in the next 5 to 10 years, that will happen. I'm very confident, right? And where APIs are going is that it's going to replace the average job potentially to some extent, but most of all, it's going to make our lives even easier. That if you have, let's say, an automated car, you get in that car and you say, hey, take me to Safeway. There's an API that's enabled with a voice recognition system that's going to know what that means and can even order you an Uber if you want, because it's going to be integrated with the Uber API, and they'll be integrated with the Safeway API, and they can even greet you when you get there. There's no limit to where this is going. It's just getting going. That's all I can say. There's no limit here. We've seen Terminator. That's where the limit is. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's no end here because we're basically pumping endless amounts of data with APIs into machine learning and AI and teaching them to make decisions for us. Exactly. So we don't even know what that's going to turn into. Hopefully it doesn't turn into Terminator. Maybe I am Legend if we're lucky, but nothing too crazy, but that's where we're going right now.
Yeah, I think like geolocation and everything for like Uber and all of that, like that's wild to me. Facebook, I'm pretty sure everyone uses geolocation now.
Well, here's the deal is, I'm a big Urban Outfitters guy, right? Typical millennial. We like little Urban Outfitters here and there. It's funny, if you have that app and geolocation's enabled and you walk near an Urban Outfitters, they'll send you a discount sometimes. And so it's kind of like that weird, like, Big Brother's always watching. 1984 is happening right now. If you go look at your Google location services, your phone, all the different platforms that are collecting data, they know everything about you, man. There's, you're like, oh, I don't want that person to know where the fuck I want. There's someone who knows. There's someone who knows, and there's nothing hiding, the reality of technology in 2020. So,
yeah, and I see, and I totally know where you're going. Right now, I see a lot of flaws with the chatbots. Well, it depends. I've had very few experiences with chatbots, but mostly when I log into, like, let's say the other day I broke my headset, right, and I was looking for a replacement for my microphone that was on my headset so I could play online, video games and stuff like that. And there was this chatbot that was like, "What do you need?" And I said, microphone, and it's like, can I connect you to a representative, or would you like to call at some other time?
Yeah.
We don't have, or I'm not understanding your question. How is API going to, properly identify those answers that people need?
So that'd be called query analysis, right? Because you're providing a query. And so that has nothing really to do with APIs, okay? And so APIs provide solutions to some extent, but they provide more integrations than anything. So for what that particular provider should have done, let's say it was Bose or some other company, right? Is they should have had better keyword analysis and conditional logic to identify what your query was. And so where we're going with chatbots is the biggest obstacle right now is the average American doesn't like something that feels unhuman. They don't like something that feels machine-like or technology-driven, okay? And so what we are moving into with the next industrial revolution, with the advance of machine learning, is that those chatbots will have better human recognition and understand actual human inquiries, right? So if we think of someone who's not technologically savvy, not technologically driven, they cannot even engage with the most modern chatbots right now, right? But in a year or two from now, we're going to have better actual natural language learning, is what it's called. That's actually what the Google algorithm is looking right now. And the ability to actually understand in a human's natural language what they're referring to. So if I were to say something in Spanish versus English, natural language learning would have different parameters to identify what that person's meaning is, right? So my Spanish isn't the best, but I know there's a word in Spanish for elbow, and that also means poor, right? Or cheap.
It means cheap. It's codo. When you're codo at the parties, like, you don't want to put money for the drinks or the food, but the codo is your elbow.
Exactly. So, but in America, there's no comparable elbow term for that, right?
Correct.
So that's natural language learning, that as they learn the specifics of that demographic and that niche, how to better respond to that, right? And so Google's actually been doing that with their updates with Googlebot and RankBrain to actually incorporate that, but we don't have that technology available yet. So I think it's called query parameter analysis or something like that, similar to it, right? But basically the ability to take someone's query, analyze it, and look at what are they referring to. So if you look at like different contexts or different ways of how you say something, you can provide the best response. So I'm trying to think of something, and it can even go as far as this, is that if you, let's say, someone's in Utah versus Florida, and they ask for, what nightlife is, that technology may realize, they may be Mormon, and you don't want to recommend the same thing for them as someone in Florida when they say nightlife.
I think that's
crazy. But you could totally do that with the API, bringing in the IP address and all the address information.
Wow.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a chatbot the other day, and they just didn't get what I was trying to say. I was like, I even put keywords in there. I was like, no, and it just wasn't working. Do you think maybe that's because they're using a different kind of chatbot? Like, are there different chatbot companies that some of them just
Yeah, so let me address one part of that question. So there's a lot of options right now out there for chatbots, right? The three that I recommend, first of all, Drift. I can't say enough about Drift. David Cancel, David Gearhart, their entire team do a phenomenal show there. I've been with them almost since day one, and they are the ones who created the category Drift, right? But since then, there's been other mergers, but the only other two that I would recommend are HubSpot and their chatbot integrations, because there's no doubt that HubSpot provides the best CRM technology out there with Salesforce, and then also Intercom. And so those are the three that are out there. but there's so many other ones out there. But here's the deal: at the end of the day, it comes down to how much is that business owner willing to invest in two things: time and resources. To be honest, the more you spend, obviously the better you get, right? But you also, even with the best tools, have to put in the work to answer those inquiries, right?
Exactly.
So if someone is just only there to answer the chatbot of how are you doing today, where are you from, you're probably going to be disappointed, right? But there's a guy who was with Drift, and he created a hot balloon company out of Seattle. I forget his name. Okay, he created this hot balloon company in Seattle, and it had like 600 different keywords it had responses for. And so, no matter almost what you said, it was going to book that. It knew what you're talking about. And when he implemented that, his sales went through the roof. And he's one of the top contributors to Drift now. And so, it really comes down to how much are you willing to actually flow chart out everything that should be done ahead of time and play a little chess with yourself strategically of what people will ask. And one of the things that I do personally, and I'll tell you right, my chatbot's very basic. I'm a little spread thin, but I've gotten some time to sit down and analyze things. But the more you use it, the more questions you see that people add. So if you see the same question coming through 10, 20, 30 times, then, maybe at that point, it's time to add that question to the database. So no matter what, whether it's chatbots or anything in digital marketing or anything in business, if you're not continuously adapting and learning, you're always going to let down the end user, in my opinion. So that's what happened with you is they did the bare minimum just to say they have a chatbot to think it counts. But at the end of the day, if you could have answered that inquiry, they could have had a little more revenue from when they're in Vegas this weekend. You know what I'm saying?
That is true.
So, we're video marketing. Well, we do video marketing in our company. And
amongst other things.
Amongst other things,
SEO,
exactly.
there's a lot of
SEO,
stuff
virtual tour, social ads, you name it. Anything you need to bring your business to a different level, we're there for you to help you out here in Denver, Colorado, nationwide, international if it's needed. Especially with Daniel Lynch right here helping us out and mentoring us how to do these kind of new things.
No, Daniel Lynch is our mentor. He may say no.
He may say no, but he
really means yes.
He's a big help for us, helping us better understand, because you're on the healthcare industry. You have a couple companies in Texas as well. You're working in Mexico, redirecting, cancer patients to, clinics in Mexico to get treated. And I'm pretty sure you use chatbots to do a lot of that kind of stuff. So back to us. We are a digital marketing agency that does video production. So I don't know if you remember, but 10 years ago, back in 2010, video production was one of the most expensive things a business could buy. You have to do a lot of research. It was inconsistent, labor intensive. The technology was just not like
Adobe Premiere was like $1 bajillion and you couldn't pay $60
exactly. So 10 years have passed. Everybody can make a badass video with their iPhone or whatever phone they have, and they can put everything together and create a good story off of it. But 10 years ago, it was not like that. So right now it's 2020. If I were a business owner and I feel like I'm ready to go to the next step because I'm getting a lot of leads and a lot of people are visiting my website, how do I get started? How do I start using this technology for my business? Let's say I'm not making a bunch of money, but how can I get started if I really see that this is an opportunity that's going to bring my business to the next level? Yeah.
So first of all, is you have to look at each business, right? So a Mexican restaurant versus a medical billing clinic that does $20 million is completely different, right? You probably don't need a chatbot to necessarily answer people's questions about margaritas, but about cancer treatment, you probably do, right?
Correct.
So, there's a higher price point there. So you need to realize that only a certain percentage of the market, let's say the top 40, 30%, 30, 40%, I would even say 20, 30, is willing to actually invest in the technology that would be able to give you the workflows and APIs that we're talking about that are really sexy, right? The average business owner can't afford $60 a month, let's say, right? And so what we need to look at is what is your specific business model and your specific need, right? And so what I do with all my clients personally is I flow chart their business. And so by flow charting them, I get to commit to what expectations they're looking for and the processes in place. And what you also do is you also realize, maybe you don't need that. Maybe doesn't make sense for you, right? But what I found though is a lot of clients, when they start looking at the chatbots, they start putting two together and like, well, that could be an entire full-time salesperson who's qualifying leads. So I don't need to pay Mary Jo $40,000 a year to pick up the phone. I can have a chatbot do it, right?
Right.
But the first part about that, and so one of the other things I do with all my clients is I say, before we get too romantic and say, I can hype you up all day. I can make you feel like $1 million. At the end of the day, here's the deal, right? Is if there's no one on your website, it doesn't matter. So the first part of any equation to this is creating volume, whether it be pay-per-click volume, organic social media. The first portion of this entire process is getting people to even care that you exist as an entire universe. They may be more concerned about a planet that doesn't exist than your business, right? And so until you get them on their website and willing to even engage that chatbot, it doesn't matter. So if you have a high volume on your website, then you start looking at what's the opportunity cost of not closing those deals. So for the average Mexican restaurant, people probably don't care about a chatbot, right? But when you start talking about, let's say, in my niche of alternative cancer treatments, of someone spending $100,000 on cancer treatment, which, we're not going to go down whether or not it's the best option for them, et cetera. Just from a business perspective, this is the world I live in, is that if that chatbot may have answered one question to generate $100,000 in gross revenue for your business, how much money did you lose by not having that chatbot, right?
Right.
And so, and considering the top tiered plans for, let's say, Drift, let's say you're paying the most expensive one, like of these high end companies, Fortune 500, paying maybe $3,000 a month for this, right? For the enterprise version, where you're getting all this different data integrated. You're having the Clearbit integration, so you can actually identify the company they're on, right? They're paying $3,000. So at most, maybe they're paying $50,000, $60,000 a year for this. If one person answered that chatbot and generated $100,000 for that one clinic, they just paid for the entire year of the service plus $40,000. Right. And that's the way you look at it. Right. Maybe the $100,000 isn't full profit, but the opportunity cost analysis will tell you how to move forward. And so until, as a business owner, you look at what's your lead acquisition costs, how much you're paying, because here's the other angle of it too, right? Let's say you're a roofing company or a paintless dent repair company and you're spending $10,000 a month on Google AdWords. Wouldn't it behoove you to maybe take one step further and create custom chatbot campaigns based on the UTM parameters of what keywords they're clicking on with Google AdWords by using UTM parameters, and then creating custom experiences since you're already paying $20 to $50 per click? Would it not make sense to even create like that? So the answer to your question, the next steps is that you have to look at your business and look at your workflows and your processes and be honest with yourself about how much are you spending, but how much are you losing by not capturing that lead on your website when you're paying $20 per click sometimes, or you're having empty tables at the Mexican restaurant. If you have a Mexican restaurant that has no customers, maybe they do need chatbots because they obviously suck right now and they need some help. So, every business is different. And that's why I always say the first step with any client is to sit down and strategize and create the strategy, flow chart everything out and see what makes sense. If you're a brand new business and you don't want to pay per click and you're relying on Google SEO, you should probably wait 6 months to even talk about chatbots, because there ain't nobody going to be on your website for a hot minute, homie, unless you know how to work that TikTok.
Exactly. But there's exactly, that is totally true. But take into consideration that a lot of people who own businesses don't have the background, do not have the education, do not even understand very clearly what you're talking about right now. So with pears and apples, how do I, as a business owner, get started from the ground up and build my business based on with the help of chatbots and API technology,
APIs and automation? And
so here's the reality. Okay, is there some business owners that are never going to get it? Okay. And that's just the reality. You go into a small restaurant that's mom and pop owned for 20 years. They just won't get it. They're making that lasagna just right. They don't need you, right?
For the past 20 years, they don't need any changes.
That mama's recipe has been holding true more than any chatbot, right?
Yeah, correct.
But here's the reality is that when you go to a business owner and you're a digital marketing expert and consultant, you need to really be honest with your clients. And the reality is that most of the clients I've worked with, they've been fucked over by digital marketing people time and time again. And so a lot of people tell me I'm really harsh with other digital marketing people, but I think enough people if you fucking suck, I need to expose you, because what's happened to me is I've had to actually lower my prices or do work for free because these fuckers are taking all the money and getting no results and breaking trust. And so the first thing you have to do to the average business owner is build trust with them. And so if the owner doesn't have trust with you, they're not going to want to pay for the service. They're not going to pay for the tools. They're going to be cheap, and they're going to be cheap because they've been burned in the past, right? So you need to be honest with them and say, here's the deal. Like, I have a client, it's called Back in the Flash Chiropractic. Ask Alexa to recommend a chiropractor in Denver, they're number one. And so when I met that business owner, his name was Chris Hawk, my number one client. And he personally told me, he said, here's the deal, dude. I've been burned by so many digital marketing people. I'm sick of it. I will never pay anybody more than $500 ever again because I'm just so sick of these guys who talk this mad game and they don't do shit. And I said, well, here's the deal, dude. You haven't met anybody like me. I'm going to do it all for free. I'm going to flex on you. And so I did everything for free for 3 months. And when I did it for free for 3 months, I got such an ROI so quickly that he gave me the keys to the kingdom and a company card to do whatever I want.
Return of investment.
Because I quadrupled their results within 6 months. So within 3 months, the needle had been moving pretty quickly, right? So they're front page of Google for the money keywords. They're in the top 3 map pack, number 1 on Alexa, doing pretty well on Instagram and social media. And when I really apply myself, I can get really good results there. And so I flexed on him so hard because that was actually one of the first clients I ever took on. And so the way that I do all my deals with digital marketing is I say, let's date each other for 3 months before we get married, right? Because God forbid you get married and everything goes to hell and you hate each other, right? So in digital marketing, what happens a lot of times is people go into 12-month contracts with clients, and by the 12 months, the clients are like, fuck, like, this is horrible. The agency is like, we know we're sucked. And they've been married for a year, and they're like, this was the worst thing ever, right? So what I do with all my clients is I do 3 month type of, it's not even a formal contract. It's just a, hey, a love tap. Like, hey, let's date each other for 3 months. Let's see if we even like each other, see if it makes sense, and then renegotiate at that 3 month mark. And what I found is that if I do that, maybe I make a little bit less money on the upfront, but I get the long-term client. And so bringing this full circle to answer your question, with any SEO strategy, lead generation strategy, any tools you recommend that require money, if your client doesn't trust you, it's never going to work out. And so you have to really tell that client why it's going to make sense, build the flow chart, show the strategy, document the results, maybe even have some case studies, right? I can tell you with Chatbots, my number one case study that I can use is that when I started Medical Bill Gurus, I was doing really well. I was getting the B2C approach was doing phenomenal. I was generating a lot of buzz on the consumer side, but the clinic side, which drives a lot of referral business to me, I was really weak. I actually started pitching around the country and just showing up as a solicitor and failing multiple times. But there's no better way to learn than failure. But returning back to my point, what happened was the first clinic that actually signed up to work with Medical Bill Gurus and refer patients came from a chatbot. And it was before I could afford the fancy romantic plan. And so I actually responded within a certain time period and got my first B2B medical client through a chatbot. Not SEO, not paying thousands of dollars for trips. It was being there when they were asking a question, just like anybody else. I had no idea they were a client. I thought they were a patient. Answered that question the way they're looking for, and they turned it on for me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And for those of you that don't know, I don't think I specified this before, but Daniel's actually the SEO guy of Denver. He is who I come for all of my SEO questions locally. Yeah, and even our last podcast, we interviewed Matt. He is the SEO guy of Houston. So very fortunate to be surrounded by two SEO
watch out, Matt.
Geniuses.
I haven't flexed in Houston yet. I'm coming for you, baby.
There's something I loved about what you said just now, and I'm gonna, jump back a couple minutes ago. You said that you did this stuff for free for 3 months. Yeah. That is value over cost when it comes to how you approach your client. And we talked a lot about, personal branding on our first podcast that you should definitely check on the link below. And but yeah, that's definitely the way to do it. If you're bringing value to the client over the cost, if you make them realize that this is the way to go and this is the way to make money, you don't, as you said, you don't need expensive SEO. You don't need expensive marketing campaigns. Every
business is different, okay? And so I'm just going to give you a little example here real quick. I have a roofing client that I took on, and I actually failed with this one roofing client. And what was really humbling for me is that I flex with SEO and talk like I'm a gangster motherfucker and I can make it rain all the time, right? But here's the deal. For that one client, I actually only generated, I think, like $30,000 or $40,000 revenue for them. He did $500,000 without a fucking website. All right?
Without a website.
Without a website.
What year was this?
Like 2019. Okay.
Yeah, geez.
So, like, boom, right? Like, screw you, motherfucker. Take your nerdy ways elsewhere, right? But here's the deal, right? Is that whenever you work with clients, right? A lot of people in digital marketing, they do these like weekend Facebook trainings, or they flex and be like, I'm an entrepreneur, quote unquote, on their Instagram bio or LinkedIn. And you're like, dude, shut the fuck up. No one cares, right? At the end of the day, it's about producing tangible results. And at the end of the day, if you know that you can produce tangible results, you should only take on clients to provide the best ROI for you. And so for that one client that I did that with, that I was very strategic at the time, I didn't have a portfolio other than Medical Bill Gurus I could show. So that was the first website that I took on. And I had actually never done local SEO at that point. So I was also very honest with myself, said, how can I charge someone when I'm not even sure if it's going to work out? I just had some ideas, some experiments that I wanted to run with them. And so I took it on and I said, here, at the end of the day, at the 3-month mark, if you don't want to pay me, I'll just take free massages and chiropractic, and we'll call it a day, right? What ended up happening, he gave me gross percentage of revenue every month, unlimited free services for me and anybody else I want. And he says, I can't live without you. And so now I'm the general manager of that business. I get direct deposit, and there's some months that I'm not even in that business and I still get direct deposit. So if I had been greedy up front and taken $500 a month and, try to flex on them, that'd been cool. But now I get probably $500 a month worth of services plus direct deposit every month. And I'm not even in the state, because I'm gifting them to other people.
You're not even in the country. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a jet setter, you could say. Yeah,
that's great. We were talking about that earlier today about traveling for free. But that's probably going to be another topic for a different podcast here at Through the Fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, we actually have one more segment, Daniel, where we ask you questions, and whether you get it right or you get it wrong, you have to drink. Luckily, he's with us today, and he
brought his own poison. Here is the Deep Eddy lemon flavored
before we
vodka.
Go, though, we have one question here. The first shooter's determined. Let me ask the first question. What is application? What is it?
What is API?
What does an API stand for?
So Daniel always gives me shit because I always forget what API means, the definition, but I know what it means. Like, I know what it means.
Well, what's the definition, though? What's the words, though?
Because it's application, and you think it would be integration at the end, but it's not. It's
application programming interface.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't count. She didn't know it. She still has to drink.
No,
give me the next one.
You still have to drink.
We're gonna do 2. Give me one more. We'll do 2 together.
Fine. But I have to ask you a question now.
We got some vodka here.
Some cotton candy vodka.
Out of a plastic bottle. So
okay,
let's see how this goes.
Are you ready? Oh, are you gonna take this with me?
Hell yeah.
You can ask me one more question.
Okay, ready?
By the way, you guys should take a shot as well. Every time you hear the F word coming out of Daniel's mouth, just restart the whole video and start all over. I'm pretty sure you're gonna be in our same vibes.
Don't be afraid to color outside the lines. That's my life advice.
Okay, you ready?
Let's hear it.
So, what is it called when a company sells a product for less than it costs to make it? Is it a pound sinker, a product destruction, or a loss leader?
Loss leader.
Okay, that was an easy question. This is from Intro to Marketing.
I didn't even need ABC on that.
God damn.
What is loss leader, Kenna?
Oh, I just told you. It's when a company sells a product for less than it costs to make it.
All right.
Anyway, okay. You know what? We're just all going to drink to this.
I got more shooters.
Andres, where is your shooter?
My shooter's it's right here.
Well, here's cheers to APIs and chatbots and.
Well, I can't open it. Let's give a little love to Mexico in the room.
Hey.
Also, if you were
there ain't fucking nothing like fucking lobsters and tacos in Tijuana, baby.
Amen. We have our Mexican flag in the background.
I just can't open this, so I'm not drinking.
Fine. Me and Kenna will do it.
But yeah. So if you guys were listening to this episode, make sure to like it, share it with your friends. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook.
We got to share with friends who actually really care about growing their own business, because there's like
a lot of posers out
free
there,
stuff right here that you're getting, all like golden information for your business and to improve your sales and improve your approaches with your clients. So it's really important, for us And it's a privilege to have Daniel here as well today. So cheers, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
I already drank mine.
Check us out.
Oh, you already drank yours.
I'm like, what?
Well, cheers, Ken.
Check us out on postustmarketing.com. And then check Daniel. How do you want the viewers to get in touch with you?
I'm on that Instagram game at ambitious Lynch or Twitter ambitious_Lynch.
Can you say that one more time? A little bit closer.
Ambitious Lynch on Instagram. I'm on Twitter ambitious_Lynch and TikTok ambitious Lynch.
TikTok.
I'm a big TikTok guy. Just hit 200 followers. Woo! Trying to flex on that TikTok game. So trying to step it up.
Man, TikTok is the future, and it's 2020 right now. It's January, and I really feel that TikTok game, starting, and people still are trying to figure it out, especially marketers, people like us. How do we approach clients through different platforms? So TikTok is like a huge potential.
Well, so with a lot of my clients right now, I'm actually integrating TikTok into the strategy. I believe that TikTok is the next Instagram for a different type of content. So, just how we went from Facebook to Instagram, where people were sick of all these wordy, you remember back in like 2013, everybody was on Facebook writing these wordy posts and people were using it as a journal. Yeah. We went to Instagram, which was less text, more content, video. Well, TikTok is the next step of that, where it's even less text and even more video, and not even more video, but it's actually more sound driven. So every video typically has a song or a lyric associated with it. And so I think in certain demographics, it's really going to be interesting. But what's even more interesting is if you go study Gary Vaynerchuk, huge fan of the man, he just puts rants on his content and he's going crazy. He just had 2.7 million followers. And so I can tell you from my experience on TikTok, I just started a couple weeks ago from the influence of one of my advisors. And that basically what I've noticed is that even if I post the shittiest content, I still get organic followers.
You do?
And as someone, and I'll tell you this, right, I've been up to 13,000 followers on Instagram, nothing crazy, by no means some hot girl that you can just smile and get a billion things, right? But I'm pretty good at Instagram, whatever. But I don't just get followers organically on Instagram. No matter how hard I try to get a new follower on Instagram, every single one of them is like pulling teeth, right? She might know something about that. So, but anyways, the idea here with TikTok is that it's wide open right now. People's eyes, you can get more eye attention on TikTok than you'll ever get on Instagram or Facebook. If I had to say two platforms that I'm launching my clients off of in 2020, it's TikTok and Twitter. T-squared.
Why Twitter though? Can you implement chatbots into Twitter at somehow?
So I've had some of the I have on Twitter I've had some of the best organic growth on my personal brand and with Medical Bill Gurus and with some of my clients that I've engaged. All it takes is on Instagram it takes a lot to get someone to repost your shit. And to actually create a post, like let's say an influencer, right?
Right.
On Twitter, you can get someone to retweet your stuff. And if that's an influencer, it's a lot less painful for them. And you can hit that demographic 10 times harder. And so whenever I go to some of my clients, what I'll do is I'll sit in the room with them like we are now. And I'll say, hey, I'm going to flex on you, all right? I'm going to go crazy on Twitter with some secret sauce I have. And if the phone doesn't ring, then dinner's on me. And I can usually make the phone ring once from Twitter within a certain time period. Very confident in Twitter in certain niches. It's not every demographic. It's not every market. It's not every industry. But you need to realize is that for the first time, starting with Twitter and Instagram, that for the first time in human history, a business owner, a salesperson, a marketer could look up their end user by a fucking hashtag. So if I'm trying to target people with anything using a hashtag, like Denver plumber, and you're a video guy and you're gonna make fucking plumbing videos and that's your specialty, you follow every fucking person who hashtags Denver plumber, I bet you will get a customer or you fucking suck. End of story.
Yeah, and that's totally a discussion for another time. That's gonna be our social media episode for sure. Getting into
social
Twitter.
media episode, and you might just be in here with us again. This has been an amazing talk, Daniel. I would like to ask you, what are you hoping to get out of life? What is your ultimate goal right now?
Oh my God, man, life. So I fucking love life. I'm gonna start off with that. I think every day is a gift. So my thing in life is that I strive every day to live the life that I want to live and not abide by any rules by society or anybody else. And so if I want to fucking travel, I'm going to fucking wake up one day and go to Mexico. I do that all the time. I love the idea of just being able to live your life on your own rules, color outside the lines, and not give a fuck if there's consequences along the way.
Okay.
Love that.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm kind of concerned about the legal aspect of such freedom. You know, there's a lot of things that I love to do as well.
There's plenty of people who follow all the rules and die and live until they're 60 and then don't ever have a life. So it's okay to fail every now and then.
But here at Postas, we do everything
by the books.
by the books.
It's true.